IELTS Speaking Part 2. We're going to look at the 6 most common areas that are asked on your cue card, and then we're going to look at the sample answers. While we're looking at the sample answers, I'm going to highlight useful expressions, useful vocabulary, and I'm going to show you how I use the framework to develop more complete answers and also to help myself speak for 2 minutes, to reach that 2-minute mark. Let's get started. So the first topic on the list is describe a person. It can be a friend, family member, a famous person. Second, describe an object. That can be a gift, a present, something that you use daily. Describe a place is the third one. Could be a city you like, a location, a holiday you went on. Number 4 on the list is describe an activity you like to do. Maybe it's a hobby or an interest that you have, a game, a sport. Number 5, describe your favorite book, or describe your favorite film, describe your favorite website, basically describe your favorite media item, I guess. Final on the list, describe an event. It could be a festival, concert, celebration. Those are 6 topics that we are pretty certain, or they're the most frequent ones that you're going to find in the IELTS Speaking Part 2. Now, when we answer these, a good structure to follow is the reflect and fill 6 method. I've talked about this in another video, but here we'll just go over it briefly. So when we're given the answer, it's good to include details, contrasts, give a reason why after we say something, share our feelings. I love this, I hate that. Give an example or a story. For this we can say I used to play a lot of squash, for example. And we can also refer to the question words, the 6 question words in the English language. Who, what, why, when, where, and how. Now, we don't have to use that exact structure that I gave you. These are pointers just to help you come up with ideas. And it's a good idea to use them, but we don't have to follow it very rigidly. I'll show you what I mean when I give you my sample answer. Now, in my sample answer, I'm going to describe a person. Let's get straight into it. Describe a friend. I'd like to describe one of my best friends. He's a similar age to me, except he's from Austria. He's got a lot of admirable qualities. I think, for example, he never speaks a bad word against anybody. I've never heard him say anything bad about anybody, and that is a trait I'm trying to introduce into my own character. He's, I guess, maybe mixed race. He's got a father from Algeria, but his mother's from Vienna, from Austria, and you can see that he's not like a typical Caucasian European. He's got quite dark features. And yeah, I think we get along well because we've both got very similar attitudes and we're both quite outgoing and we really enjoy sport. Whenever we practice sport, there's always a competitive element to it, and probably that's what makes it enjoyable. I think we're different in the fact that he prefers stability, like a stable job, living in the same place and having quite a consistent and a lot of routine in his life, where I, at the moment, am veering to the opposite of that. And I prefer exploring and a lot of living a bit more spontaneously. I think we're different in our differences in worldviews regarding like stability and exploration. I think it's probably because of the way we were brought up and the cultures we were brought up in. I'm guessing, but I can't exactly tell you why. And yeah, so that's my description about a good friend I have, and I hope you enjoyed my talk. Now, if we apply this talk and we look at it using the reflect and fill 6 method, you can see that I've used details such as the mixed race, Algeria, Vienna. I'm talking about the contrast in our character, spontaneity versus routine, worldviews. I'm given reasons why. I'm talking about because of the way we were brought up and the cultures that we were brought up in, I'm guessing. So I'm not saying it for certain, I'm just throwing it out there, so to speak. Feelings. I'm introducing my feelings into the talk. We get along well because, and I gave a small anecdote, I gave a small example of one of the characteristics he has, which I admire. So I'm backing it up, and I'm backing it up with an example. He never speaks a bad word against anybody. And then question words are there. I use them throughout, like the who, my best friend, the what. I don't think I've mentioned many objects. Maybe worldviews, I don't know. Why? Because he never speaks a bad word. When? I didn't mention much about when. So what I'm saying is you don't have to use this exact structure, but it's a good checklist to follow, to loosely follow, in order to help expand your answers. So let's have a look at the useful vocabulary I used in that talk. I'd like to describe one of my best friends. Admirable qualities. These are traits. These are characteristics of his that I admire. He never speaks a bad word against anybody. This is a trait that he has. He's also a very honest person. That's another trait. I'm trying to introduce into my own character. It's a characteristic that I am trying to introduce into my own character. In typical Caucasian European, it's quite dark features because of that, and we get along well. We never argue. We usually agree more than we disagree. We've got similar attitudes. We're quite outgoing. We're both competitive. Outgoing means, quite active and proactive, I guess. Competitive element, obviously, I don't like to lose to him and vice versa. Veering to the opposite. This means that we're like in opposite directions in that respect. Veering, slight tendency to go that way while he's going the other way. Worldviews, this is quite a heavy philosophical topic. Won't go into it now, but it's just how you see the world, your beliefs. Because of the way we were brought up, the way that our parents brought us up, and our beliefs that we have. Now, because you've heard those expressions and you're familiar with them, be careful. Here's where the danger starts, because you might be familiar with them, but that doesn't mean it's part of your active vocabulary. To get them into your active vocabulary, now some of those phrases you'll be already familiar with, and that's because they're part of your passive vocabulary. And when you recognize terms, that usually means that they're in your passive vocabulary. Now, if you use them day in, day out, and that's what you need to do in order to speak automatically, if you're using them day in, day out, then they are in your active vocabulary, and that's where we want them to be. And in the next exercise, I'm going to help you put them into your active vocabulary. So what we do is we use the Echo 10 technique, and I want you to go back to the recording, and then when you hear the expression or the term, you pause it and then you repeat it. So you could say, he never says a bad word against anybody. You just repeat it exactly after I say it. You can do it for the expressions, or you can do it, probably even better, if you just do it after each sentence, after each slide. You just pause it and then you repeat it. I would recommend you doing this 10 times, and this will greatly enable and speed up the process for you to bring that vocabulary into your active vocabulary, where when you use it, it's going to be more likely to come automatically, quickly, and smoothly. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, what you can do is you watch the first sentence and then you repeat it, but you repeat it in the third person. So you could say something like, Ben thinks that his friend never says a bad word against anybody. Another way you can do the exercise is you listen to a sentence, you pause it, and then you put it into the past. You transform it into the past tense. Ben thought that his friend never said a bad word against anybody. It can get quite tricky, so you might want to write it out as well. The important thing is to take action and to start actually speaking. This is the fastest way you're going to move vocabulary from your passive into your active vocabulary. And this is exactly what the new app we are developing at the moment is going to do. It's going to basically focus on transitioning all this known knowledge that we've got in our passive vocabulary. We're going to move it into our active vocabulary. And if you're even more in a hurry and you can't wait for the app, then have a look at the online course, because there's lots of tools and techniques shared in that course that will help you advance faster. So my name is Ben Worthington. Thank you very much for watching. There's one last thing I'd like you to do before we finish, and that is tell me how you're going to use the Echo 10 technique. Are you going to transform the sentences into third person? Are you going to transform them into the past? Or are you going to use other material? Let me know in the comments below. Have a great day and good luck with your IELTS preparation.